Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm Caden. I'll be your host today. Welcome to my first post of 2026. Yeah, low-key, I have not had the wherewithal to make a video since November. But I'm getting back into it. I'm trying to get back on top of it. It's just very difficult because I've been out of the groove for a minute, so bear with me. But today I have a little Valentine's special, and that is a little freak girl reading vlog. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, I actually can't really describe it. But basically what we're going to be reading today is weird literature focused on freaky stuff or that have a little freaky energy to them. I mean horny books about horny people doing horny things. That's it. Because you know what, let's celebrate the freaks. And trust me, we will be. Some of these books that I chose are crazy. I am not sure how many of these books we're going to get done because, it's Thursday. And Valentine's Day is the day after tomorrow, and that's when this video is supposed to be going up. So we'll see. I'm gonna do my best though. So, without further ado, let me introduce the books that I want to read for this vlog. First up, we have Crash by J.G. Ballard, which is about a group of omnisexual car crash fetishists. I don't really know much more beyond that, but this seems pretty exciting. Then we have Sky Daddy by Kate Folk, and this is a book about a woman who has a fetish for airplanes, and she works at an airline. I don't know much more beyond that, but I'm very excited. We have Snuff by Chuck Palahniuk. This is about a woman who is trying to break the record for having slept with the most men in a row on video. And it goes over the points of view of all of the men waiting in line to go have intercourse with this woman. Ew. Sorry, there was just not a better way to word that. I'm sorry. And then last but not least, we have Spread Me by Sarah Gailey. Now, this is a horror release. However, all the reviews that I've heard make this seem almost not even almost a dark romance kind of, but obviously not really. I don't know. I'm very interested. It's about this woman who brings a parasite into this research facility, and the parasite begins to latch onto her as its new host, I think. I don't know, I'm very interested in this one. I'm also in love with this cover. This is beautiful. Now, the book that I'm going to choose first is Sky Daddy by Kate Folk. This is the one I'm most excited for. This is the most interesting to me. This one and Crash. Sky Daddy and Crash are my most interested. And due to the time constraint, I'm at least going to get through both of these, at least. Let's go start reading, and I will check back in when I feel the need to, around the 25-50% mark. So, see you then. Okay, so I just finished the first part of Sky Daddy, and oh my god, I'm eating this book up. This is so much fun. So far we're following our main character, Linda, and she has basically always, since birth, had a fascination with planes. However, of course, during puberty, that turned into, a little weird fascination with them, a little freaky, a little fetish for them. So I explained this horrifically yet again, but the reason that planes take on a fetishistic, but more than fetishistic, a general attraction for Linda, is because she at 13 experiences a near-death situation, in which the plane that she is riding in with her family hits a pocket of clear air turbulence and her plane nearly crashes. I don't know why I kept saying for them as well. Yeah, bear with me. I was like low key in like a not the best headspace when I made this clip, so bear with me. So, now as an adult, Linda is working at this content moderation place, where she like, is a content moderator, so she works in harassment, deciding if comments can be commented or not, basically. And her goal is right now to find a pilot to marry. So that way she can like fly a lot more often. And her ultimate dream, like the thing she wants to achieve most in life is dying in a plane crash. Because to her, that's like the ultimate romantic like coming together for her and this plane. I'm loving this story so far. I think the writing is beautifully humorous, and it's like I love the way she describes planes as well, because the way she's describing planes, I'm like, low key, like I see it, I see why, like I see what she's getting at, and I love it. And just the way she like talks in general, the way she describes some things or some people or some actions, it's so delicious. I am eating it up. It's so nicely written. And I really love our main character because she's so like detached from like the real world, but not. Like she kind of understands how it works, but at the same time, like she talks to, because she lives, she's like renting out this house. She's renting a room in their garage. That was the worst way I could have explained that. She's like trying to talk and interact with the family, but she's like never interacted with them before. So the son comes in and is like, hey, my parents are like concerned. Are you good? Like, maybe just don't go into that house anymore. And it's like the most funny interaction because it's just like, she like doesn't understand how social stuff works, and I love it. And I really like our main character. Like she's very endearing. I'm rooting for her so much. I really want her to get in a plane crash. Like, yes, you got this, girl. I believe in you. I will say she is definitely a little freak. This girl has a piece of, I think, a Boeing 737 that she like keeps on her, and she gets into a plane and like uses it to, get off. And it's the funniest thing because it's like, girl, that's metal. Does that not hurt? Is that not sharp? I don't know. I love it. I love it. I'm having a great time. I'm really excited to see where this goes. I'm very interested to see how this develops. So I will update once I finish part 2. So I just finished Sky Daddy by Kate Folk, and let's talk about it. So I believe that I misrepresented this book when I first started it. To my knowledge, going into this was a book about a woman with a fetish for airplanes. However, that's very different from what's actually in here. I'm gonna go back a bit on what I said earlier because I do disagree with some of the stuff I said earlier. And I just feel like I didn't elaborate. So, our main character, Linda, she wants to be married to a plane. It's not just a fetish for her. Planes aren't just a fetish for her. It isn't just she is in love with planes. She is an objectophile. At least, sort of, though her taste is only in airplanes. She isn't similar to the woman, or she is, but she's very different from the woman who married the Eiffel Tower, or the guy who, wanted to do it with his car, if you remember that from years ago. But anyway, she's very different. She wants to be married to a plane, and the way she sees this happening is that a plane will choose her. And in doing so, it will become so focused on her that it crashes and takes her with it. which is honestly kind of romantic. Like, I kind of love that. That's kind of amazing. But anyway, what I also got wrong is that it would just be about this woman's attraction to planes, her trying to get married to a plane, which, yes, that is obviously a major plot point. However, this is a book about acceptance, self-acceptance, about community, and about loving yourself and accepting yourself and allowing those around you to love you for who you are. And I think it did this beautifully. I think the way that the relationships in this book were written, especially as we get later into the book, are beautiful. Every character is so in-depth, and you don't really realize it at first because Linda describes them very surface level. She sees a lot of the people around her as very two-dimensional people because she doesn't let herself get close enough to see those different characteristics, the different levels of complexity of those around her. Ooh, an Amazon package is being delivered. Anyway, it's beautiful. I think the way that it was written is beautiful. I think the ending perfectly encapsulates. I don't think it's my favorite. I think there were maybe a way or two in which it could have changed, but I think the way that it did end was beautiful. I think it balanced kind of her social, like, the relationship aspect and the, like, community aspect, as well as our main character's love for planes very well. I think it balanced those perfectly. This was a very fun story. I will be thinking about it for days. Truly, I think this book resonates so deeply as well because I think the main character of Linda, specifically beyond just the refusing to let anyone in and refusing to let herself get close to anyone, while that is a very relatable aspect, there is one aspect of that specifically that I find deeply relatable, and that is the fear of letting people in on certain interests, like her interest in planes. And I understand the, like, fear of, like, how will I be perceived by those I love, for being interested in this and having these feelings. And it's something myself, like I said, probably like 3 times now, that I myself, like, deeply relate to. I've had moments where I've confessed to my very close friends about stuff like this and expecting it to be perceived differently, and it doesn't even matter in the end. It's just like a fact about myself that I can share with those around me and let them in on that deeper part of myself with me. I just think it's, like, such an important and, like, deeply relatable story to an extent, of course, because, hey, I don't want to die in a plane crash to find my true love, but you know what? We all live differently, and I just think that this was an amazing story. Kate Fulk is a very talented author. Like I said earlier, the writing, humorous and, like, delicious and just, like, so interesting. And I loved it. I loved every second of this. I want to read even more from this author. This was amazing. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, though that rating could increase or decrease by time monthly wrap-up comes around. It wasn't an all-time favorite. That is the reason it stays at 4 stars and not 5, is because I'm not sure that this is a story that will stick with me forever. However, I do think that this was something that will stick with me for a little bit. I'm a big fan, and I had a great time with this, and I would highly recommend it. So the next book that I have chosen is obviously Crash by J.G. Ballard. This is another one that I'm very excited for. This, just to, like, reiterate, or, like, to refresh your memory, is a book about a man who joins a group of omnisexual car crash fetishists. I believe after he himself gets into a car accident and becomes fascinated with them. So I will update you once I've made it into this story. Okay, so it is now the next morning. I didn't update last night because it was like 10 or 11 p.m. by the time I got halfway through this, and I honestly just wanted to go to bed. I think I'm halfway through this. Yeah, just over halfway through. Um, Also, before I get into talking about Crash, bear with me as I like try to stumble through this. I'm like actually having the worst morning. It's hot as hell in this room right now. My dog woke me up by barking, wouldn't shut the fuck up. And my hair, tried dry shampooing it. It's doing its own thing, and the dry shampoo is irritating me, and I'm like just very overstimulated at the moment. So bear with me as I try to like drive through this. But yeah, and also my nose is like congested, not in like a runny nose way, but in a way that it's affecting my speech and making it hard to get through my words. So if I look like I'm having the worst time ever, I kind of am right now. I'm so sorry. Bear with me. So far, what Crash is about, we follow our main character, James Ballard. J.G. Ballard is who wrote this, by the way, so low-key a self-insert. But anyway, we follow our narrator, James Ballard, as he gets into a car accident with this woman and her husband passes away in the accident. And both James and this woman are hospitalized. James starts to realize that he is like not processing things normally. Like there's a level of eroticism to everything that like obviously wasn't there before. And even when talking with his wife Catherine, who him and her already like they're freaks. Like they get freaky, they get kinky already. But this is different. He's like starting to notice that he like can't step away from it. And then soon after this hospital stay, he meets up or ends up running into the woman who he had the car accident with, and they very soon enter kind of a very odd affair situation, where like they'll just get into his new car, which is the same make and model as the one he crashed, and they like just they get really into it in the car, and then they start realizing there's this person who's following them named Vaughn, who is this old actor who got into a really bad motorcycle accident, and ever since then he's like started following car crash sites and taking photos and stuff. And Vaughn basically takes Ballard and Helen under his wing. Helen is the woman doctor that was in the crash, obviously. Anyway, Vaughn starts to take them under his wing and introduces them to a group of other car crash fetishists, which this is a fetish for them. Specifically, Ballard, like, seems to struggle to have any... He doesn't struggle to, like, complete the mission, per se. However, he does struggle to have the, like, feelings of, like, I'm into it. Unless a car or, like, the idea of the crash in some way is involved. Anyway, so they start to meet up with this group, and now they're starting to kind of go to these, I want to say like NASCAR, but for crash testing. It's like a really odd, I don't really understand what they're going to, but it's basically NASCAR, but instead of racing, they're watching car crash testing. I don't know. Anyway, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm really liking this. It took me a minute to get into it, I will say, especially because this is transgressive fiction. So the writing style's a little bit it's a little bit edgier than Sky Daddy per se, but about like a quarter of the way through, I really started to get into it, and I'm eating this up. I am ready to devour the rest of this. I want the movie in front of me now. I want the movie now. Unfortunately, I do have to wait until probably after this video goes up to watch the movie, so I won't really be able to give you my thoughts on that. But yeah, so I'm gonna go crush the last, like, 40% of this book, 45% of this book, and I will update you when I've finished it. So it's nighttime now, and I did finally finish Crash. I finished this, like, hours ago. I'm just gonna be so totally honest. First of all, I'm sorry for my lighting right now. I don't really know what she's doing. I, like, honestly was not really in the mood to fix it. But anyway, my feelings on this book are complicated. Here's the thing. This book, in the, like, last little bit that I had left to finish, like, the last 45%, I feel like it kind of flopped a little bit for me. While there were elements that I mentioned earlier that I still fell in love with, like the perversion, that was really interesting, and like, of course, I loved the freakiness, and like, I loved a lot of the writing. I just feel like it got really repetitive, especially in its description of sexual acts. I'm trying to be careful with my wording here just so that way YouTube doesn't get upset at me. We got just kind of really repetitive with what was happening, and it wasn't really moving the plot forward. Speaking of which, there wasn't really anything moving the plot forward, and by the end, I was kind of underwhelmed. I wasn't really as excited to finish this as I was when I started it. I don't know, she just, like, she didn't give the same. It kind of felt like it got lost in the transgressive piece of it. There were, like I said, there are still pieces of it that I love. And I think especially towards the end, with Ballard's last meeting with Vaughn, I really did like how that was written. I thought it was really fun, and I feel like it kind of lit a little bit of that fire that I was missing. But I don't know, it just kind of felt like it lost itself in the, like, let me be as horny as possible. I don't know. I am gonna give it a 4 still, because I still love that first half of the book. However, my love just has, like, this definitely isn't a favorite of all time, but still really good. I would still recommend this. I still think this is a very good book. It is transgressive, it is perverse. I loved it. I had a great time. I just, like, wish we actually did more plot rather than just, like, stuff. Rather than just, like, stuff. You know what I mean? Like, also, I do want to add this because this did make me raise my eyebrow a little bit. And I did try to ignore it earlier because it wasn't, like, it didn't really stick out as much compared to everything else. Like, it felt like a book trying to be transgressive, and I kind of ignored it for, like, the actual, like, contents of, like, the Crash related stuff. However, there are some mentions of PDF philia that was, like, not my favorite, and while they aren't, like, I don't know, it's just, like, very weird, like, this didn't need to be added, these characters didn't need to be that age, or, like, described in this way. It just felt very odd, and that also is deterring my love for this book a little bit, because I felt like it went a little too... I get this is transgressive fiction, okay, before people, like, especially some kind of man comes after me being like, well, it's transgressive fiction, supposed to push the boundary. It pushed the boundary for me a little bit too far, okay? I'm gonna say it. It made me a little bit uncomfortable, and it just wasn't necessary. And I lost a little bit of love for this book in that. However, that aspect of this wasn't, like, a massive part of, like, the characters' sexualities or anything. Like, it wasn't like a It wasn't a central plot point. That's what I'm trying to get at here. However, that being said, I am very excited for the movie. I think the movie I will love. Especially because there were passages in here often where I myself just had trouble visualizing what was happening. And that's because, what is it called? I forget what it's called. Aphantasia, I think. I'll look it up and put the word here. But I don't, it's like I can't, like, see things in my mind. Like, a movie doesn't play when I'm reading. So it was, like, low-key kind of lost on, like, what was happening. And I was, like, trying to, like, piece together body movements as well as vehicle movements, and it wasn't really working in my brain. But I think in movie form, this is going to work a lot better for me. A solid 4-star, though that rating is due to change by the time that my monthly wrap-up comes out. We'll see kind of how I'm feeling, but I really did like this, and I think this is a very good piece of transgressive fiction. Now, I have a little surprise for you. Instead of either Snuff or Spread Me, we are going to be reading a secret third option, and I wasn't really sure if I was going to be able to take the video in this direction because the delivery time on this was a little off. However, in my hands, I hold a little surprise my sister already got into the package, because I forgot to change the name on the shipping address. But anyway, also, before you call me out for buying a book off of Amazon, I do want to say, one, don't fucking buy books off of Amazon unless you're in my case, where I checked Barnes & Noble, I checked Thrift Books, I checked Pango Books, and I checked Depop. Could not find this book anywhere. I don't know why. I don't know why it wasn't available anywhere. Like, Barnes & Noble, like, would not deliver it to me. It wasn't even on the, like, it was there on the store, but it was, like, out of stock. Yeah. So, I had to order this book off of Amazon, which hurts my soul a little bit. And that is Box Hill by Adam Mars Jones. Now, if you don't know what Box Hill is, this is the book that inspired the movie Pyllion that just came out in theaters last Friday. I was so excited when Pyllion came out, and unfortunately, it's not showing in my state. Even though it's an A24 movie with Alexander Skarsgård, not showing in my state. It's showing in like 12 states total, and I'm very upset about that. I was very excited to see that in theaters, and I'm very hurt that I won't be able to, but fuck me, I guess. Anyway, so from my understanding, Box Hill is about this guy who is not conventionally attractive, and he is introduced to this gay biker dom. This is the 1970s as well, so this is like, I don't know if this is correct, but I feel like this is, like, earlier queer culture. Like, it's finally able to start, like... This is, like, early queer culture, and basically our main character, starts to get into this world of kink with this gay biker guy, this gay biker dom, and starts to be his sub, ? I did take a look at the back, and I will say, I do already have some eyebrows raised because her main character is freshly 18 and the love interest is 10 years older. What does a 28-year-old want to do with a 18-year-old? Sorry. My bitch neighbor just got home. No, I'm kidding. It's her husband. Fuck him. Anyway, and it sounds like from the back that this is going to explore class, homophobia, of course, as well as familial loss. I don't know, I'm very excited. I am also in love with this cover. This is a beautiful cover. I'm very excited to read it. This is shorter than I was expecting, so thank God, because that does mean we will be able to get through it. This is a 114-page book, which hopefully means I will be able to have this and the video done in time. Finally, my first actual video to go out on time or out, period, this year. I'm gonna go take a crack at this. I'm very excited, and I will obviously update you guys when I'm at a certain point in the book where I feel like I need to update. Anyway, see you guys then. So it is now the next day, of course. I read 20 pages of this last night, and obviously that was not really enough to give an update on. Nothing really happened that I felt like I could talk about. So I got halfway through this so far. So let's talk about it, because I have some very mixed thoughts. So as I said, this follows our main character Colin on his 18th birthday, where he accidentally stumbles onto the cruising grounds of Box Hill and literally falls over our love interest Ray, where they quickly engage in some sexual acts. And shortly after, Ray says, "What am I gonna do with you?" To which Colin, our main character, replies, "Anything you want." Which, me too, twin. Me too. I get it. I see you. Anyway, moving on from that. Shortly after this, Ray takes Colin to Ray's house, and they engage in more sexual acts, to which, like, their first time specifically, that whole, like, part is very odd, because the way Colin describes it makes it, he, like, describes it basically as non-consensual, but it's also very confusing because it's like making me raise an eyebrow at their relationship. However, he just like describes it as that and like moves on. It's very confusing. I feel like that description was not really needed, but he describes it as that for some reason. So anyway, moving on from that, the next day, Ray takes Colin to Colin's house and talks to Colin's dad. Colin's mom is in the hospital dealing with, I believe, ovarian polyps. Let me put the actual term down here. But she's dealing with these, and Colin's dad is very concerned about her, so Ray is basically like, "Hey, your son's gonna come live with me for some time. Like, it seems like he needs some distance from the house," and Colin's dad doesn't really give a fuck, so he's basically just like, yeah. And Colin and Ray begin to settle into this very odd dynamic where Colin is not allowed at Ray's house during the weekdays from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. However, he stays the nights, and on the weekends, I believe he's allowed to stay over. I'm not entirely sure on their dynamic, nor the purpose behind this. Basically, where I'm at right now, we're just kind of settling more into this dynamic. Colin is learning more about Ray as a person, how he's very meticulous and, like, safety-driven on his bikes, and he, like, takes a lot of care on his bike, to the point where every Saturday he spends at least an hour polishing the full thing and like really taking care of it. And Ray's safety is very, he's a very safety driven person as well. He has a motorcycle/poker club, and basically he doesn't allow any of the members to have more than one drink if they're going to be driving their bikes, which I really appreciate. I do love him for caring about that. But yeah, he's just a very safety-driven person. He takes safety very seriously, and he, like, is very meticulous and, like, anal about things. I have some gripes about this book so far, specifically in the writing. The reason I'm not completely falling in love with this, beyond just the very odd dynamic, is that already our characters don't communicate. There's not a lot of verbal communication between them, which isn't my favorite. However, I think it works for their relationship, because while there isn't a lot of verbal communication, which I do realize is not healthy for a relationship in which they are exploring kink, however, this is early kink culture, so the standards are very different. And also, the communication between our main character and Ray does feel like if there are any hard lines, like, drew a boundary, it would be respected by Ray, which also makes me confused on why their first time was described as not really being consensual. I'm very confused on that. They're, like, they don't have a lot of communication aside from, like, nonverbal, which is fine. Not my favorite for their relationship, but I think it works for them. Outside of that, the writing is doing a lot of telling and not a lot of showing. This relationship is being told to me, their sexual acts are just being told to me, and in a very vague way, so I don't really understand fully what they've done. There's only like one scene where it's really been described, where I've felt that there was more showing and less telling. But yeah, there's a lot of telling, and it's not my favorite. I'm like, it's kind of keeping me at a distance from this relationship as well. And the writing itself is very clunky. Let me give you an example specifically of the writing so you can kind of understand. I didn't think I knew what I wanted, and I'm still not sure why he chose me. I was never a looker, I never had a waist, but Ray was drop dead gorgeous. Though people didn't say that then. It wasn't a phrase. I didn't think Ray was drop dead gorgeous in 1975. I was still reading teen magazines, and in 1975, the word in my mind was the word that teenagers used then. Ray was tasty. Like, it's very convoluted for no reason. It's a lot of words to say something that could have been simplified. It's just very hard, and while the writing does improve more towards the middle of this book so far, it's just like, it's not my favorite, and it's very much so affecting my enjoyment of this book. It's not my favorite so far, basically, is what I'm trying to get at. But yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna go finish this. I will let y'all know when I finish. So it is midnight. It's officially February 15th. Life got in the way, so I did not actually end up finishing this video or this book in time for Valentine's Day, but that is okay, honestly, because I still finished a video. And this is my first reading vlog. I'm now realizing I think this is like my first multi-book reading vlog that I've ever finished. I'm very proud of myself. And I look really cute in my Valentine's Day outfit. My hair is beautiful, especially in this lighting. She looks amazing. I look amazing. My makeup still holding up. Outfit is cute. So yeah, anyway, I have officially finished Box Hill by Adam Mars Jones, and I have some thoughts, so let's talk about the book. So I'm gonna go with a 3.5 star, I think, for this. Like with the other two books, I think this review is subject to change, but I feel like a 3.5 is probably where I'm gonna really settle with this for a few reasons, and that is because, one, the writing did get better, and I did find myself enjoying this story. I think by the end, I was a little Stockholm syndromed with it, but I did end up, like, I finished it and I was still like, damn, I would kind of eat up a little bit more. And I will say the ending was a little abrupt, so there was reason for that. The ending could have used, like, literally 2 more pages, and I would have been fine. It just felt very off where we ended. It didn't feel perfect. After the climax of the story, the ending felt very like, a lot of the end felt very unnecessary. There were parts where I was like, we could have cut this out. We could have not included it. Doesn't really do a whole lot for me overall. Also, I was honestly, through the beginning, I was very exhausted of our main character. Because by the halfway point, I was like, this is exhausting being in his brain because of his insecurity, as well as, like, how much this man overthinks. Like, I was like, I'm exhausted, which it did get better, but still not an aspect of his character that I loved. I feel like I don't know, I feel like the relationship as well wasn't the best. It felt very unhealthy at points, but simultaneously it was also, like, a very healthy relationship. Like, some bits of it, I was like, no, like, this works. And then other parts, I was like, this feels very, like, this feels, my eyebrows raised, and I'm not in love with it. I feel like this book definitely did not meet my expectations. It definitely wasn't, as freaky as I thought it would be. So I am very excited to go watch Pilion, but I don't think it is going to be at all like this book. For many reasons. One being that the main character is also not plus size, which the main character in this book is plus sized. And I am actually very much so upset about that. Give me more queer media with plus size guys, please. I need it desperately. A lot of the themes on the back were also not really discussed. There wasn't a lot of like homophobia discussions nor discussions about class. Maybe I'm just dumb, like correct me in the comments if I am, but I didn't really get that in this text at all. Like, there was not a lot of, or any mentions of class or anything. Maybe a little bit towards the end, but even then they were like passing comments and they weren't, it wasn't really emphasized at all. I don't know, I just feel like I left this wanting more, and it definitely didn't meet my expectations, but I don't think it was the worst thing ever. I think this was a very good book. I really did want more from it, and I also wanted less from it. I just was not that big of a fan of this. However, I'm not a hater. I would love to revisit this in the future. I also feel like this is a story that I could revisit several times, and like it wouldn't feel like a chore to read. It definitely felt very just like a nice, oh, this is easy-ish to read. Like I said earlier, though, the writing style was a little, she took some time to work with. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Box Hill by Adam Mars Jones. Now, I will see you in the morning to do the outro, because I would like to be able to speak at a normal voice level. So, good night for now.